should actually have titled my speech, "My Swimming Coach Wanted to Drown Me." Picture this scenario. There I was, standing at the deep end of the swimming pool, staring into the water, trying to learn how to dive. I knew that that was the only thing holding me back. But I was scared. I was afraid. I felt the cold, clammy hands of fear wrapped around me. Let me ask you all a question. Have you been in that scenario, in that situation, where you knew that the difference between where you were now and where you were supposed to be was just fear? You knew that it was just fear, and that once you achieved that goal, it would open up a whole new frontier for you. But you were still paralyzed all the same. Can I say a show of hands? As you can see, it happens to all of us. I am going to use my story to illustrate how I faced that fear and what came of it. And hopefully, you might gain one or two things. So like I mentioned earlier, I was interested in swimming. I wanted to learn how to swim passionately. I'd seen things on TV, and I was in a British boarding school, and they had a swimming pool. I was excited. So I made an appointment with the swimming teacher, and the fateful day appeared. He told us to come try out. And there I was standing in front of the swimming pool. After all, how hard could it be? With my friend. And my swimming teacher said, "Okay, now you said you can swim." I was like, "Yes, I can swim." He said, "Okay, jump in." And before I could get myself together, my friend had jumped inside the swimming pool. He disappeared. And when I looked closely, I just saw someone going like this under the water. And before I could say Jack Robinson, he had surfaced at the other end. He actually traversed the swimming pool underwater without breathing. I was like, okay, interesting. And then my swimming teacher said, "Now you." I said, "Me?" He said, "Yes, it's your turn." And I took a step towards the pool, and the next thing, my Nigerian sense kicked in. I heard his voice saying, "Mr. Man, you are a Nigerian. We don't do this sort of thing. You want to jump inside swimming pool, really deep end. Are you sure?" I took another step back, contemplating. The next thing, my mind began to be affected by images of all sorts of bad things happening, like me drowning. For some strange reason, all the bad news I've heard about swimming started flooding into my memory. I started to have mental images of them carrying me back home in a little box. And my mom going, "Oh God, who sent this man to go and enter the swimming pool? We sent you there to read." So I said, "You know what? I think I'll try on the shallow end." I was actually deceiving myself, thinking that, yes, after all, it's just what we see on TV. You jump inside and you flap your hands like this, and then your body magically starts to move. I jumped into the shallow end, and two things happened. The first thing is that what you see on TV and what is obtainable in real life are two different things. So to those of you that like practicing what you see in the movies, you might want to take notes. I went down and I drank water. And it was soon obvious to everyone that I couldn't swim to save my life, literally. Luckily, my swimming teacher was a nice man, and he said, "Okay, you know what, you can start from the beginning." So I started. Day in, day out, I always turned up. I was always present. And little by little, I began to get better. My technique began to improve. And that shows you something. You might not have the skills. You might not be where you want to be. You might not have the opportunity presented to you. But if you keep showing up, if you keep attending the meetings, if you just keep at it, if you are faithful, one day, the opportunity might show up. Someone said 90% of success is just showing up. I don't know about the statistics, but it holds a modicum of truth. My swimming improved, and I began to be really happy. But one thing eluded me. I didn't know how to dive. For some strange reason, anytime I looked inside the deep end, fear caught me. And it began to worry me. And I began to get very embarrassed when I saw young 8-year-olds just jumping, and they would jump inside the pool. And I'll be like, wonderful. What do they have I don't have? And while I'm still contemplating, another 8-year-old has jumped in, splashing water in my face. I said, no, things have to change. So I was on the deep end, sitting with a friend of mine. And he said, you know what? It's so easy. You are the one complicating matters. He said, all you need to do is just lean in. I said, oh, really? Just lean in. It's that easy. He said, yes. And he demonstrated it. And it worked. I said, okay. He did it a second time. And then he said, why not try it? So I tried it in the safest way possible. And lo and behold, I had done it. And I said, wow, I did it. I went back, I tried it a second time. And a third time. Then something just exploded inside me. I jumped out of the swimming pool, ran backwards. And then I ran towards the pool and I dove. And I executed a perfect dive. I was so happy. Finally, I was no longer melancholy. I had conquered the fear. And with that, my swimming took on a whole new dimension. Soon, I was going for competitions. Now, I am not saying that I was going for the Olympics, swimming, Michael Phelps. I'm sorry, we don't do that to my family. But I could at least swim. And that made a whole lot of difference. And that thing taught me something. It taught me that most of the problems, most of the fear that we experience isn't actually real. It's just our mind making things more complex than they are. And the solution to that is just to take a simple step. Now, this story I'm sharing with you is one that I threw away as one of life's random happenings. Then 10 years down the line, I was meditating and asking myself, what value can I add to this world? What have I done? What obstacle have I conquered? What mountain have I climbed? And then within the confines of my soul, I heard a still small voice saying, remember how you were scared you were going to drown, but you actually conquered that. And those lessons gave birth to a book that I wrote called Dive, Jump In, which is published on Amazon. Another turning point for me was joining Toastmasters. I just heard about Toastmasters everywhere. And one day I decided to just Google, and I found a club close to where I stayed. And I remember walking into the club filled with strangers in another land. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know if they would accept me, but I still took the step. And it's made such an impact on my life. The very things we create in our minds are just, they're not real. And sometimes the solution, like I said before, is just to take a simple step. All of you here have that thing that you know you're meant to do, you're meant to start. Whether it's a relationship, whether it's a business, whether it's a book. For some of you, whether it's to do your second speech, your third speech. I'm talking to some people.
And they know themselves.
Yes, sir.
And they know that they're meant to do it. But for some strange reason, they've given themselves all sorts of excuses. It doesn't work like that in Nigeria. All men are the same. All women are only after money. Toastmasters, I'll do it next week. I'll write that speech next week. Those little excuses that sound so good on paper. But when you're lying down in your bed at night, that tiny voice tells you that you're just giving yourself excuses and that you could be more and you could do more. So if you want to write that book, start writing the first chapter. Take a little step. You want to start that business, Register it. You want to start a relationship, and you're a woman. The next man that says hi to you, smile back.
Wow.
Little steps.
It doesn't work like that in the job.
Excuse me. Little steps. After all, Confucius said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Now, after gaining the knowledge and the skills to accomplish your goal, ask yourself, what little step can I take? It doesn't have to be complex. It's actually the mind's job to protect us, but sometimes our minds overdo things by creating huge obstacles in our minds. I'm going to conclude with a poem by Christopher Locke titled, Come to the Edge. And it goes thus. Come to the edge, the man said. We are afraid, the people replied. Come to the edge, the man said again. We will fall, the people said. Come to the edge, he thundered. And the people drew closer to the edge. And he pushed them. And then they flew. Mr. Toastmaster.